Got a little breakdown on 2501. It sounds a little bit crooked. Having a little bit of a spasm, but yep. I drove in 2502 already and done a review of it, but I want to do it more thorough. So right now it's in EV mode. So what you want to do? Oh, that's not a lot. Like this. This has always been running. Right now it's in EV mode. Of course, it's a 6.7 liter B series engine, which obviously is a lot smaller, way smaller than than the 8.9 liter. So there's not a lot of room, but they also move a lot of systems, and a lot of systems like the things like the power steering pump and stern. There's something else they move out. They move out to the top of the roof and stuff. But right now it's in EV mode. So the engine's completely shut off. All right, forgot this. Got a little prop. Like I said, it's warm. This is the first time it's been warm in several weeks. Not like a half an hour before I pull out, before I leave. But I pretty much give you a rundown of the bus in general. So there's gonna be some things I like, some things I don't like, per se. Now, these seatbelts I'm generally not too fond of because they're a little more light and flexible, and a lot of times depending on who gets in the seat, when they buckle the seat, it's easy for them to just slide in for this little slot and get twisted compared to the harder seatbelts. Granted, the harder seatbelts tend to tear up the fabric on our sweaters, as you see here. I kind of had stitched up over time, but these are a little bit lighter, more flexible. But granted, they got a tendency of just twisting up into the slots, depending on who gets in the seat. So you got, kind of got to be careful with that. So there's a lot more thin material. Obviously, your air brake, parking brake, air brake, and then the hour lights, the driver's on dome light, which is above. The preheat is meant to was automatically on, but it's meant to warm up the engine. If I'm not mistaken, warm up the engine before you turn it on. And this is kept on automatically. Of course, the ramp heater that powers up that ramp heater right there. But truth be told, it's kind of redundant because not a lot of heat comes out of it. The fan, which is funny enough not working, so that's all above driver's fan, which is not working. So, and of course, stop request bell, you can turn it off, turn it on, or you want to reset, you just flick it like that. But the interesting part that I want to show is right here. We got the auto shutdown, so if we disable it after 8 minutes, the engine will automatically shut off. Granted, this is a hybrid with the auto stop, so it's in EV mode. So technically, I mean, really, I don't even need this switch. It's kind of redundant because it's going to automatically do it anyway. So, but this right here, depot drive. So I'm gonna close the door. I'm gonna turn off the climate control so we don't hear anything. So the only thing you're hearing right now is the Farebox, and currently it's on depot mode. So if I flip the switch one time, If I flip the switch one time and wait three seconds, you're going to hear the engine kick on. All right. So right now the bus is in neutral. So even though, I don't know if you can see it because it's sunlight, but right now, if you see it through the sunlight, you see that the module showing that it's FE. So the F, in case you're wondering, stands for forward. So when we press the this button here, oops, sorry, the drive button, that puts it in the gear to, you know, put it forward. So when you hit D, what's going to show up is F, which means forward. Of course, N means neutral, and then R is going to show up on here saying R. So you got two letters that's going to show up on the dash on these Allison modules. The F, forward, and then that E, which is in electro mode, which is what we're hearing, or what we're in right now, which you hear on the battery. So even though it's showing that I'm in drive, it's flashing, which means I'm neutral. I'm in neutral. That's just how the design is. So even though, you know, it's training, they tell you hit the, you know, press the neutral button, so you make sure the bus is in neutral. The bus itself automatically sets that. You know, it automatically sets that. So even though it'll showcase it, because it's flashing, that means it's not in drive yet. Once you hit the parking brake or the air brake, that's going to pop up. So what I'm going to show is the depot drive. So depot drive is the switch between EV mode and the diesel engine mode. So if I hit one time, wait 3 seconds, you're going to hear the engine cut on. So ooh, that was abrupt, but now you hear the engine completely on. All right. So right now, because we're in neutral, the only thing flashing is the letter F. But when we're in drive, so if I disengage the parking brake or the air brake and put in drive, it's like going to set. It's going to be fixed. So it's not going to be flashing. It's going to be in a fixed place, and you're going to see the letter F. But then you're going to see the letter S pop up above the mode. So if I hit the depot switch and put it back in EV mode to show you exactly what I'm talking about, because right now, because we park, it's not going to show up. Let's see if it kicks on now. All right, so I hit the switch. Now it's showing the mode. Engine's still running. But nonetheless, the letter S is going to show up above this when we're in drive. So when we're in constant move motion. And the S is supposed to represent start stop, which is kind of a bit of a misnomer, you know, because if you're in drive, even though it got the auto start, it automatically does that anyway. But that's what the letter S is meant. But you know, you see here on our gauges, on the temperature, on our gauges, you got diesel exhaust fluid, and just like on every bus, but on these new Flyers, no buses don't really showcase a lot of the information like that. But you got the diesel exhaust fluid, which is about halfway, you know, 0.5%. Every time we pull the buses in the mechanics or the wash shop, or I want to say like the wash house and the cleaners, but they basically the fuelers. Whenever they fill these buses up, they fill them up with diesel exhaust fluid along with it, and that diesel exhaust fluid is meant to cut down on the emissions being outputted by the diesel fumes. So without the diesel exhaust fluid, you're just going to have, such as when you see that car, the diesels, you know, imagine that being diesel fumes, it's just going to be kicking out. And so the diesel exhaust fluid is meant to, you know, keep that, because, you know, pretty much keep that from happening, as you see right there. Then of course we got the batteries and stuff. So every bus that you ever will come across, heavy duty bus, is going to have at least 4 different batteries on, you know, installed. So you got the primaries, and then you got the backup reserves. I don't want it to be interchangeable, but each voltage, or the 12 volts, will have a pair of batteries, and then 24 volts will have a pair of batteries as well. So in total, every bus is going to have about 6 batteries, which will have a primary and secondary. So if I go for, plus it's touchscreen, so I mean there's nothing new. It's been on here. It's been on every new Flyer since the 16,000, if I'm not mistaken. So right here is really meant for the mechanics whenever they're doing diagnostics. So this ain't nothing showing. And of course we got odometer, which is in the touchscreen, and we can actually reset our trip. So right now I already reset it. This is about how many miles I accumulated since driving the bus since like 10 o'clock. I want to say like 10:30, and it's about 2:30 now, so 2:36. So 4 hours I've accumulated about 86.2 miles. Now you see when I can touch it and go between trip A, trip B, and if I hold, it doesn't matter which one, but if I hold over to B, you want to see it reset the trip mileage just like that. Now it's at 0. So I plan on doing this for the 60 when I start my regular run at 69, as opposed to like right now I'm doing with a 60 with a 70. I'm going to see how many miles I'm accumulating. It's not exactly something that a lot of drivers pay attention to, but there is some that actually look at it like, well, the amount of time, if you're really keen on the amount of hours you drove, the amount of time you've been on a bus, and how that calculate into your pay, this actually is a good feature for a lot of operators to keep track of, for their own personal purposes. And of course, below that, everything else is the amount of hours the engine been idling. So it doesn't mean the amount of hours you've been driving, just the amount of hours the engine has been running. So that can mean driving, idling, as long as it's been on, that's how many hours it's accumulated so far. So this bus is about maybe 2 months old, and it's been here, been with MTA for like a month. There we go. Now the EV kicked in. So it accumulated 318.7 hours. So there's some things that I like, there's some things I don't like. So as far as like a PA system, and this is brand new, but since the Novas, so since the 20,000s, the Novas came in, we have started, every bus from now on is going to have the gooseneck microphones. So before, when you see any other new Flyer buses, they always had that little pod right here in the corner above the our radio phone. So this phone is just for us to contact radio to talk to them. But we had a pod above that. Now the thing is, when you hit the switch, so below here, there's our microphone switch that we're talking to. Here, kind of click on that pod on all the other buses, on all the new Flyers, and pretty much every bus before the Novas. The microphone will only give you a set limit amount of attempts to talking to it, and from my observations, it's probably been like maybe 50 attempts at most before it just cut off. I'm guessing it's just something in the memory of that pod that it just automatically cuts off and you can't use it again. But also because when you talk into it, it has a delay. So once you talk into it, it gets your information across, and you only have about, I think, 8 seconds, maybe 10 seconds to talk into it before it cuts you off mid-sentence. And then, like I said, after 50 or so attempts, it will stop, the microphone will stop working, simply because of the memory or whatever it is. And you will have, if you the type of person that uses the microphone frequently like I do, you gotta go back to the back of the bus, flip the switch for the battery, reset the bus in order for it to work. But I mean, really, do you want to keep doing that often? So right now, these goosenecks, you can talk into these live, license Novas. So if I turn the switch, you can see the light comes on, and I put it at max. I can talk into the microphone just like this. So now the thing is with the Novas, the gooseneck microphone is usually from behind, and it's trying right here, so it's literally right next to you, and you can talk into it. Now the thing is with these 25s, these 25s, you kind of gotta lean over. So I wish it was at least, the very least, maybe a half a foot longer, so I don't have to slump over and talk into the microphone like this, as opposed to like where I am. If I do the same thing, you can barely hear anything I'm saying without me getting closer to the microphone so you can hear stuff. So that's my only little pet peeve for the gooseneck microphones on these 25s. They either Could be behind here, but there's a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of electronic components back here. So I just wish it was like maybe a half a foot, maybe about like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe like a half a foot longer, so we can talk into it. But then again, I'm probably the only one who uses it. So, and of course, everything else. Now, this bulky section right here in the steering column, below the steering wheel, it has a purpose. So as far as I am aware, this is meant to be where the magnetic memory setting is. So basically, right now we're in a standstill. But if I was driving and I was at a red light and my wheel was turned, right now it's turned, you know, 90 degrees. Well, funny enough, this is actually the straight position, so the steering wheel needs to be realigned. But nonetheless, if the steering wheel, let's say the steering wheel is set like this, and I happen to be at a turn and I'm got the steering wheel set like this portion right here will automatically readjust the steering wheel back into the straight position at standstill without my interference. And it could be from the left, from right, but it will automatically, you know, reset the steering wheel into the straight position of when you you know, where you had the wheel at. And so we can't I want to say telescope, but we can't telescope the steering wheel, so we can't adjust it going up and down. It's fixated in this one location. Now we can adjust it coming down, leaning down like this, which is what they want you to do, you know what I mean? But that's just not how I drive. You know, I can't drive like that. So of course with me, keep it straight. I mean, that's just how I feel. I mean, I don't, you know, if you don't get in accidents, what can he say? So, but it's only meant for you to adjust it going up and down. You can't adjust it, I mean, going into your lap or flat straight up, but you can't go up and down with it. But that's simply because of just how this memory is, and as opposed to other steering, you know, the other steering wheels is literally, you know, just a thin panel, and you can adjust it up and down how you want. Now, the thing with this hill holder, it comes in handy whenever, like, you know, once you drive for a long distance or for a certain distance, and the engine has been constantly in motion, and when you're sitting. So every bus that we have since the 13,000s has an interlocking system. So the interlocking system is basically let's just say like a computer that automatically locks the service brake in place after about 3 seconds. So when you're sitting still for 3 seconds, the parking brake will engage and lock itself in place, and you won't even need to have your foot on the brake itself, you know, while standing still. On the Novas, every bus had these hill holders, but these hill holders was meant for, you know, when you were standing still, and if you let off the brake, the bus may drift back, so you have your hand on the hill holder switch to keep it in place. Ever since the Novas, the 20,000s came in, the hill holder, you flick it once, and they will automatically lock the brake. So that was kind of like a substitute for the interlocking system on the Novas. While on the new Flyers, it was really just meant as a, you know, a fail-safe, just in case you let off the brake, you hold the switch, but you gotta continue to hold the switch in order to keep it in place. Now with this bus in particular, is kind of weird because it automatically comes with the interlocking system, so the brake automatically engages anyway. But it also has a hill holder, which is basically if you're driving, if you've been constantly driving, and then you let off the brake, you would hit it once, and then it would lock the brake in place before the interlocking system engages. It's kind of redundant since we already have an interlocking system, but I mean, if it's there, it's there. So I can't really complain about it. Of course, we can adjust our pedals forward, backward, compared, you know, considering how short you are. And of course, all of our defroster switches. It's taking a long time to do rev up. So it's that, and of course we can control if it's going directly to the window or it's doing both the window and our feet. We always keep it in that position. And of course the vent, which I honestly don't know why they installed this, but the vent if I open it back up, it let fresh air come through the wheel well. It's kind of bad when some of these get stuck and they stuck in the open position during the winter and you got just cold air blasting through your feet. So I'm not sure why that's been something that New Flyer has installed in the buses, because that used to be where the floor heat, extra floor heat used to be. So it wasn't just a defroster, but it was also another floor heater below to keep your feet warm. But they switched out and put a vent, which is just literally a vent from the outside that just opens up and it just feed fresh air into the feet. All things considered, I mean, in the summer maybe, but then again, if you got the AC running, you don't really need it. You don't want to have cold feet all the time. So besides all that, of course, we can, you know, control the our instrument panel with lighting and stuff, so you can't really see it because it's daytime. Then the windshield wipers, I need to clean the windshield before I leave. But this is the pet peeve I have. So where I'm sitting at in this position, wherever you got the wheel, how I'm going to adjust it to the way they want you. But from right here, I'm not entirely sure why New Flyer moved the kneeling switch. So kneeling switch, obviously, if I open the door, we can control our suspension to kneel the bus down and raise it back up. Now this 25 is a bit slow. It's not abrupt like any of the other Xcelsiors. But the kneeling switch used to be above the transmission module. Now with these 25s, for some reason, they instead move it right here behind the steering column. And a lot of times, of course, with the switch being right there, we had a toggle switch. But it wasn't a problem, you know, with the ramp power. So this right here controls the power going to the ramp. So if I press this, ramp doesn't work, flip it up, turn it on, and then you see it can open just like that. But moving the kneeling switch right here behind the steering column, and I'm just saying, like, when you drive in, you literally had to reach your hand around to work the kneeling switch, and oftentimes you're pretty much just hitting the off switch to the ramp, or you're hitting the ramp because you're so used to, you know, everybody's accustomed to the kneeling switch being above the module. And especially from where I am, I absolutely cannot see it at all, and I literally gotta go like this with, you know, just memory and work it. So I wish for the 26,000s, if it's not too late, that they'll move the kneeling switch back above the module, the gear selector module. That's really my only pet peeve with these buses in general. And of course, our shield, soon we're going to have fully enclosed shields, but see right here, it's kind of, you know, it's pretty much almost fully enclosed, so it's keeping us, you know, from getting attacked or wherever the case may be. And of course, this rod is what moves it back and forth in place. The switch to open, you know, to open it, unlock it and stuff. But you know, the seating arrangement, and I think the seat automatically comes up, but somebody left it. How did somebody leave the shoe? Honestly, it wasn't there, so somebody left the shoe on here on this previous shirt, so I don't know how. And somebody left the shirt as well, but this is what everything looks like from a certain perspective. You can't hear anything, or you just hear the electric motor doing its thing. And of course, our TV monitors that we use supposed to be programming, but oftentimes somebody would do it and then they forget about it. I mean, now it's a lot better than, you know, showing more information than it used to do. And this, I mean, I don't even know if these work. Could they finally reinstall these? Could they actually took these out after about the 16,000s, and now they reinstalled them, but they haven't programmed into that because it's meant for the TV to do that. So that's kind of like MTA's, you know, it's MTA in a nutshell. But finally, we're going to get to the Fareboxes. So the Fareboxes, now I have said that these are AI, this AI technology, but that's in a figurative sense. So figuratively speaking, it's artificial intelligence simply for the fact that when passengers pass through that door sensor right here, it sends that signal directly to the Farebox. So the Farebox is automatically collecting data and, you know, knowing if somebody's getting on the bus and they're paying. So it's really for us drivers to really, you know, use, you know, take the initiative to, you know, collect the fare, state the fare, however, you know, basically give them information. So it's kind of forcing us to do that, because if enough people walk through the sensor and they just walk on by and you don't say anything and the Farebox is working, it's going to collect the data and it's going to come back on to the operator, you know, to showcase that you need to do your part in stating the fare, collect the fare, or say something. If it's a fare evasion, we press 9, no fare. That means fare evasion. Or just somebody just doesn't have fare, we just, you know, have it. We press 5, that means flash pass. So right now, these are the tickets that comes out of the slot. So we don't have the old tickets anymore. We got these little paper ones. So we're going back in time to the old days of this. And right here is supposed to eventually, when MTA finds a vendor to be able to take the money out of this will be able to take credit cards and debit cards. But right now MTA doesn't have a vendor that can you know, take the money out of people's cards to do transactions. So right now we still in the olden times, and of course that's where the bills go in, this is where the coins go in, and this right here is pretty much the light up, you know. But it's sort of artificial intelligence in a sense, but nonetheless, I mean, that's pretty much everything I need to show on this bus, and I gotta get out of here on 70. But I'm gonna have this. I'm literally gonna be driving this bus for 14 hours. So I've been here since like 10:30, doing the 70. And then gonna be, when I get to Patasco, switching to the 69 and do that until midnight. So I mean, the 70 is overtime, but nonetheless, this is how everything looks on the bus. I just want to give you a rundown or breakdown of everything. And of course, back here, these USB ports, they don't want us to use it. Granted, if it's there, we're going to use it until the mechanics come in here, rip the whole thing out like they've done with several other buses. And of course, up here, that's for the mechanics, for maintenance techs. So the Allison, so that's the Diagnostics mode for Dode. Diagnostics Dode for the transmission. This is for the bus, so the vehicles will run all the electronics to see if, you know, something happened electronically. And this one, not exactly sure, it's Flyer Connect. So I'm assuming that has something to do with going directly to, you know, I guess like the smart systems with the buses and stuff. But, and of course the camera module, and every time I turn around, every one of these things don't have the cameras working. And if I open the door, I already rolled it up. It's the interior camera, so it's that camera that's looking directly at the rear, out the rear door from the inside. So that's the one that's off. So I already wrote that up. But nonetheless, that's everything else I need to show. I need to get out of here. And peace.